Hello everybody, this is Latapon Injaron here and I am back with another video session on marketing management, and today we're gonna cover some of the most important topics of all. The subject is called targeting, segmentation and positioning, and we're going to be listening to a video session recorded by Michael McCall. He's a professor of marketing, and he's very excited to get to know all you guys. And before we move on, I just want to inform you and tell you that you have to be aware of the knowledge level which is in these video series of marketing management, which we're going to be using in the coming season of business. And the reason why I want you to notice that is because we are doing, as I said before, we want to give you the highest quality of knowledge and academic theories that is for you to practice on. Okay, so you can read books and you can go and have lecturing, and you can attend to university programs, but if you cannot practice these theories and these knowledge, apply them in the real life, then they are basically worthless. So with that said, I just want to encourage you to join our business right now at vimadk.dk, and just click on the link on the right in the right column of your page, so that you can go to product side and become our brand partner. And in this way you're gonna be able to apply all the theories and all the knowledge that you gain from these marketing management session. Okay, and you're gonna be able to make money with that, and you're not only going to get a university diploma here in this in these theoretical sessions, but you also going to be making a lot of money, making business, and creating good value for you and your family and your friends, and the society that you are surrounding of. So with that said, I want to bid welcome to Michael McCall.
Okay, sounds like we're good. Okay, so welcome. My name is Michael McCall, and I'll be leading this discussion here. Today we're going to be talking about segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And the idea would be to see how this kind of information might tie in together with your firm. A little bit about me. My background is in marketing. I'm the department chair and professor of marketing at Ithaca College, and I'm also a visiting scholar in the hotel school at Cornell University. My research revolves mainly around gaining value from customer reward programs and developing brand loyalty. And as a way of framing this discussion today, what I'd like to share with you is that while these webinars do not replace any of the course material, it's been very well done by Professors Kortnick and Carroll, but rather this is a value-added kind of contribution where alongside, kind of in parallel with the class material that you're going through, we can add a little bit of a value to that whole experience. With me today, I have one of our learning team members. His name is Aaron. He'll be handling the technical support on the side, as well as some other people here. With that, I guess we might as well get going. Welcome, and again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come here today. Okay, we're going to begin with the first poll. Again, this is another part of this program that allows us to kind of get some information from you, and we can start the poll now. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes and let people jump in and complete the poll.
Hi, your friend wanted me to share with you a secret to creating a serious secondary cash flow in just a few hours a week. Hi, I'm BK Barreco, and in my career, I've had the privilege to pay people just like you over $700 million for doing something so simple, they'd do it whether I paid them or not. You see, I own a wellness company called Vima that markets some massively consumable brands to people wanting to lose weight, add some healthy energy to their life, or just slow down the aging process. Our secret to generate over $100 million a year in sales lies in our business model. You see, rather than competing head-to-head with the mega companies in our space in traditional advertising, we take a more social approach. Now, of course, you've heard of social networks. Well, I just add the word marketing to the end of that. Social network marketing. And here's how it works. If you like our products, let your friends know. And you guessed it, we have an app for that. And whether you tell 3 or 4 friends and you enjoy free product, or a light bulb comes on and you get how powerful this concept is when you meet some of the people that have partnered up with us and become generating an extra $500, $5,000, even $50,000 a month or more part-time. Now, I know I'm just hitting you out of the blue with what might sound like a crazy concept, but this business model is working big time. In fact, get this, I'll pay out over $50 million this year alone to regular people that just did a little bit of homework and discovered what I hope you take some time to learn more about. And if I could give you just a little bit of advice, get with your friend and just have a conversation. Learn more about Vima, and maybe this is something you can see yourself doing. And here's the good news. It's not rocket science. You know, heck, I only have a high school education. It's just a super simple way that you can create your own economy and enjoy an extra income that grows bigger by helping people become healthier, both physically and financially. Hey, check this out. You're going to be glad you did, I promise.
Okay, so welcome back. We will have another poll towards the end of this discussion, this webinar, and we'll discuss some of those results at that time. So today, let's begin. The idea of segmentation, targeting, and positioning. This is a wonderful topic. It's something that you learn very early on in marketing, and many of you probably have done this. What we're hoping to do today is really talk a little bit about not only the fundamental process, but really where some of the pitfalls lie, and again, how things are really changing for us in what we call in this new Wi-Fi or high-tech sort of environment. And hopefully along the way we'll be able to share some strategies and maybe some things that firms or you might be able to do within your firm in order to benefit from an optimal segmentation and targeting position. All right, so in a nutshell, as we begin, this first slide, and oh, by the way, what I would tell you is that the slides, let me see, I'm trying to move that slide. I can't. So as we're going through this, the idea, let me see here, having a little bit of a technical issue here. Do I need to undock it or? Okay, all right. Okay, there we go. To begin with, all right, we spoke a little bit in the last webinar about what we call the marketing concept. And for those of you that were here, welcome back. This should be somewhat familiar. And to those of you who are new to this, this is probably something you may have seen or thought about in different places. But the basic idea that we're trying to communicate here is that the customer sits really at the center of everything we do. If the customer doesn't like the product and it doesn't like the price, they're not going to purchase it. And so, like we spoke of last time, the basic idea was to really begin to understand what that customer is, what they want, and how we can best meet their needs. One of the underlying themes in all of this is, in some cases, the customer themselves might not know exactly what it is they want. And it won't be until they actually experience a product that they'll actually find out whether or not it meets their needs. So, along that way, one of the things we're beginning here is to learn, how do we break up our customers in a manner that allows us to meet their individual needs. All right? Can we group customers in certain ways so that we can reach out to them and develop a loyal customer base? We're going to come back to this topic probably again at some point today, and if not in the future. You'll hear this rule in marketing, and that is the rule of 80-20. And the rule of 80-20 is basically the idea that 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. And you really need to know who those people are. So what we have here is really an emphasis on beginning to understand who that customer is and what potentially might be their long-term value. Another term that we come back to, I believe it is also in your ongoing course, you'll hear about it frequently, bantered about in all different areas, is a term called CLTV, or customer lifetime value. And the basic idea, and there's a lot of people working on this right now, trying to figure out how much is a customer worth to you throughout the time that they're with you. All right? And that means not only in terms of the basic notion of repeat patronage or revenue generated, but also in terms of those intangibles like word of mouth. In other words, do they market your business to their friends and to others? So I think all of those things kind of drive us to look closely at who that customer is. All right, so moving forward, here's where it starts to get interesting, and we start thinking about, are there certain assumptions that we make about these various groups of customers? And to do that, we have something here called the target selection process. Now, I may have mentioned this earlier, all these slides will be available to all attendees immediately after the broadcast. But, okay, let me just take you through the first step, all right? And the first step here is what you can see on the PowerPoint, is the idea that we want to identify a strategy, all right? Now, what's interesting about this, and you'll see this coming up in the upcoming slides, is really the notion that what are we going to think, what assumptions will we make about our customers? Are they similar in a variety of ways? Are they dissimilar in other ways? And so the idea is, can we appropriately group them based on the amount of customers that are really out there? All right, can we find them? Will they be profitable to us? Can we reach out to them? All right, and depending on what type of business you're in, that becomes kind of an interesting. It's a real interesting process, and I hope to share with you some of the nuances that I think make it particularly interesting as we move forward. All right, as we move forward, the second step, and this again allows marketing to be somewhat creative and challenging, with the basic idea that what segmentation variables are we going to use? I'm going to preview, kind of give you an appetizer here for what's going to happen later on. Some of the most common variables that are used to segment customers, or that is to break them up, are things that are called demographic variables, things like age and gender, which again are kind of nice to have. They don't require a lot of creativity, and as we're going to see later, how old you are may not be necessarily the best way of grouping you, given a variety of other needs that customers have. I guess as a niche to hang on to here, here in the United States, it was very popular to create this group we called baby boomers, or post-World War II births. And that lasted until the early 60s. These people are now nearing retirement, and again, there were certain commonalities among their experiences. So in that case, it was the experience probably more so than actually their age or birth date. In the subsequent years, we've created, in marketing terminology, the Gen X's, the Gen Y's, the Millennials. Marketers are really good at coming up with clever names. They're not always as good at figuring out what those meaningful differences might be. But again, that'll come a little bit later in today's talk. All right, the third step in this process involves the more interesting aspect of developing market segment profiles. In other words, can we describe our optimal consumers? All right, how do they live? What do they do? All right, what would they look like if you were to create your group of customers from scratch for your firm, whether it's a restaurant or a hotel or for almost any other area? What would your optimal group of customers look like? And in fact, that's where you start to develop that whole sort of larger profile, as we indicated here. Number 4, again, and we're not going to talk a lot about this today, is more in terms of evaluating the market segments. And for that reason, you're really more or less identifying whether or not there are enough of these types of people, enough of this group, that can actually make you profitable throughout the endeavor here. All right, and then lastly, of course, is the relatively unsophisticated part. You make a choice. Okay, these are going to be my customers. These are the people I'm going to focus on. So, if you are perhaps a high-end hotel, you might look to grab business customers during the week, and your weekend customer group could potentially be families or young couples who want to enjoy the city. During various times of the year, you may say, well, we can really pick into, I live in a college town, so during the academic year, college students may be a very viable group of people to see as customers. So the selection process really is beginning to understand that marketing environment that we put up here, all right? And again, if you go back, you see the economic forces, the legal and regular, kind of what is the business, or what is the condition in which your business is operating? All right, so let's step forward. We got the selection process. Most people, excuse me, are quite familiar with that, and it makes sense. But here's where you get a little bit creative. I like to say in often cases in marketing, you can get creative. In accounting, you can't. That gets you in trouble. So let's look at a basic strategy here. Now, what you're going to notice is this is kind of interesting in a sense, although it's probably very unrealistic. I would certainly ask each of you to think about how this process might work in your own firm. So you have your firm, that being your organization. Right? That's the business. You develop what we call in marketing a marketing mix. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before. It's the combination of the price, product, the promotion, and distribution. All right, so this is a unified product. It's a single mix, and you make an assumption. You make actually a rather interesting assumption that if you're right, that's great, but if you miss, you could be in trouble. And that is, if we look to the right-hand side of the screen, we see our target market. These are the people that we want to reach out to. And the assumption that we make here, just stepping back and looking, the assumption we make is that everybody is an A. Everybody has the same set of needs. Everybody is willing to pay the same price for the same product and have it get to them in the exact same way. We can promote to them in a single manner. Now, this begs the question, are there really many firms left that can operate within this sort of environment? I mean, I'm not sure that that's possible. I think as we move internationally, we have to customize products, whether you're McDonald's, whether you're Levi clothing manufacturer, whether you're an automobile manufacturer. There are so many things that need to be changed to meet the needs of these different groups of customers. I'm not entirely convinced it's viable to treat everybody as a single unified customer. And so that creates an issue. What do you know? How can you gather the kind of important information that would allow you to differentiate this group? As we see here, it's an undifferentiated strategy, one size fits all. And if you were to put a little note next to it, that would be the one. One size fits all. And I'm having a hard time, I'm very hard pressed to find a situation where that would be the optimal strategy to pursue. So, as we go through this, right, we start thinking about, well, what about varying those products, the prices, and how do we do that in what might be the best possible manner? Because we clearly don't think every customer is the same. Every customer is not the same in terms of profitability. If I run an entertainment area, if, say, I'm in the casino business or in the restaurant business, you may have certain regulars, you may have certain people. So how do we reach out? Okay, here's the next one, and this one I think is actually kind of interesting as well. Notice, again, on the left side, we have a firm, and the firm creates a single marketing mix. Now, this is probably one of the strategies that was pursued, I mean, clearly in the 60s and 70s when we didn't have a lot of variability in product manufacturing, where things were sort of, on the manufacturing line, things came out as a one basic unit, and we did the single price. Now, where it gets interesting, this is the part that I hope you appreciate a lot. We make an assumption here that there are probably at least 3 different groups of people out there. All right, and with 3 different groups of people, there are A's, and the A's might have their needs, B might have their needs, and C is another group of customers. And what we realize, though, is that for our business, at this place and time, B is the customer group we're going to focus our energies on. We're going to try to reach out to them, and we're really going to try to attract them as our primary target. In the interim, we're not going to focus much energy on A or C. So what you might find, I'm at a college and a university that might draw their student population from generally the Northeast, okay? And so those are our main targets, those are our main customers. We're not really engaging in a lot of marketing efforts outside of that region. And for some of you, you may see yourself as a regional or even a local service provider. Those are the kinds of things that you might think about. And so the primary core of your business is intended to satisfy that specific group of people. Now, for that tends to make a lot of sense. It certainly seems like it would be a straightforward kind of approach. Here's the issue, though. In probably the grandfather of most marketing activities can be traced back to the really good work done by Procter & Gamble, dating all the way back into the 50s and 60s. Procter & Gamble is certainly the master of developing marketing and marketing style as we see it today. But if you step back and think about it, Procter & Gamble was marketing largely cleaning products. All right? And if they were marketing to B, if they were marketing to B's and a couple of A's or C's bought their cleaning products, all the better. Maybe that's not always true, though. All right? And one of the things we're going to come back to at the very end of this class, or this discussion here, is really that, are there consequences if people outside your target market begin purchasing your product? All right? If you are based here in the United States, where we had a massive residential mortgage crisis, this is exactly what happened. That is, there were always people out there, A's and C's, who wanted larger homes, and in fact probably couldn't have afforded it. Once people stopped saying no, then A's and C's began to get mortgages and consequently were unable to fulfill their obligation. In large part, this is what happened here in the United States. So if you think about it, if A's and C's are welcome, or if they're not, these are some of the really hard questions you have to ask. You may have a particular target market, and it may be wonderful if you can get people from other areas to climb in. Maybe they don't even need any extra effort in terms of the strategy, but it's really one of those kind of interesting questions that's good to think about. Who is your target, and can we go out and get them? All right, let's move now to probably what is the most common, certainly for each of you folks. I would suspect in most industries, the next slide probably captures at least a generic version of what you're already doing. And that is the differentiated strategy. Now understand, this is in and of itself a very generic version of it. Because in fact, what you see here is you have an organization, they develop one marketing mix to reach out to one group of target customers, and then you develop another marketing mix to reach out to another group of customers. Some of the simple things might be a snowboarding company that might reach out and have a product that we would call marketing mix 1 and the lower price range to appeal to high schoolers and college students, whereas they might have a higher end version that they might appeal to young adults and couples. All right? So this could be discounted. There's a discount version here. There could be a variety of different choices, all right, in terms of automobiles. When they introduce different lines, again, the product varies, and it's intended to reach a slightly different population or slightly different audience. And that's interesting, okay? That's really sort of a good process for all of this. Now, just a couple of caveats here and some things I think you might want to think about, and that is most firms probably don't limit themselves to 2. Most firms don't limit themselves to 2 mixes. They may have 5, 6, 7 mixes, and that can actually get them in trouble in some cases. Take Coca-Cola, for instance. Coca-Cola is certainly, one of the most profitable brands out there. Certainly in the brand equity surveys, it comes out very high. One of the most highly equitable brands we have, and their development of new products, again, intending to reach more of the population, actually created some problems for them. 20 years ago, when you said Coca-Cola, everybody thought the same way. Now that Coca-Cola has introduced, Coke Zero, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, and all of the other ones, the brand gets a little confused there in that process. All right, now, here's where you have some obvious concerns. The thing I like about this one, when we look at the A, B, and C, imagine the following. Imagine you're a restaurant, all right? And you're a restaurant in a fairly populated area, and your main business is the evening dinner crowd, okay? So you typically serve dinner from, say, 6 to 11 p.m., 6 days a week. And that's your main core business. Marketing mix 1 is your 6 to 11 dinner crowd. But you realize that, in this area that we live, there are a lot of elderly folks who probably would like to come to our restaurant, but they might not want to come out late at night. So you come up with an idea, very common. You come up with an early bird special idea. So from a period of, say, 4:30 to 7, you serve reduced portions at reduced prices, and it's primarily targeted at the The original crowd, or the elderly, okay, or older adults who might wish to come out and eat, and they don't necessarily want to eat late, they don't need big portions, and they're on fixed incomes. Great. Now you have two mixes, ideally reaching two different crowds. Here's the rub. Here's the real concern. What would happen if suddenly your A group suddenly decides, you know, I don't need all that food either. I can come in a little earlier, and I'll take the lower price. In essence, what you've done is actually cannibalized your existing business. So as we go through this, you know, again, this is where I think it gets very interesting, the ability to look, think about who your customers are, and think about how that management process might work. A lot of the, and here in the United States, a lot of the dining chains, the Chili's and the Applebee's type stores, restaurant chains, they're trying to reach out. They created another mix, and this mix is intended for young families that might not be able to have children sitting in a restaurant over an extended period of time. They created a takeout so that, in fact, you can still get the food that's offered, but you can call ahead and order it and then pick it up, and you'll be able to eat it at home, which is, again, you know, makes life easier for, say, the family with small kids. The concern, and one that they'll have to face, is, are those people no longer coming in for regular meals? And if that's the case, then you've kind of diluted your market, and that's the concern. So for me, this is really, as we're talking about branding, and you go through the course, and the course has a lot of brand management and delivering on the promise. I remember seeing as I went through the course myself. These are the kinds of things that you really want to think about. That is, how do we get to the customer and maintain that brand image so it stays clean and clear? All right. In other words, the positioning side of this whole argument is to say, who are our customers and how do we want them to think about us? All right. We've seen a number of cases of that before. I mentioned Coca-Cola has lost some of it, has had some identity issues over the years. Another one, again, very popular in North America, is the Sears Roebuck stores. They've become horribly confused as you wander through the store exactly who and what it is that they do. All right. So again, when you're thinking about your brand, you're thinking about how you want the customer to see it and who those customers are. And again, those are the things that we spend a lot of time to protect. All right. So if we go back, we can look back to segmentation choices. If you go back number 2, what do we do? Almost any marketing textbook will talk to you about the various segmentation choices that you have. And they'll usually lay out 4 of them, 4 categories. Now I'm just going to talk briefly on these. We have a little bit of time here. And the first one is obviously demographics. That is age, gender, perhaps race or ethnicity, to some degree occupation. We like to refer to these as somewhat cheap data because it's relatively easy to get. There are a lot of firms out there. We can easily gather this demographic data on our customers. Again, not all that creative. It's easily available. But the real challenge is trying to make sense of it. And I think that's what we're going to talk about here, is how do we actually make sense of the data that we've collected? There's a mountain of it out there. So demographic data, while potentially useful, probably needs to be combined with something else. And here we have geographic information. And again, we can think about this in terms of, you know, geography or location within the world. You know, what are some of the available products? If, for instance, you live in Hawaii, many of your products have to be shipped in. So basically, in terms of distribution issues, in particular, are there geographic challenges or barriers? One of the things we're finding now, certainly with geography, is technological coverage. All right. While it is increasingly getting better, there are numerous places around where access to Wi-Fi and other sorts of technological sophistication that can be used to make purchases simply isn't there anymore. All right. So when it gets there, that'll be good. But in this case, the geography can play somewhat of a role. All right. Moving down. Psychographic. Everybody likes psychographic variables. Psychographic variables include such things as personality and lifestyle. All right. And in fact, there's been traditionally there's been a controversy in this area, and the controversy sort of revolves around this: if people complete a questionnaire and tell me about their personality, logically I should be able to follow them around all day and see them demonstrate what they told me. And in fact, there's very little connection between what people say their personality is like and our ability to recognize it in an ongoing manner. So for that matter, people tend to place a lot of emphasis on the role of psychographic variables, but their best contribution, where you can really take advantage of it, is if you combine psychographic variables with other sorts of things. And that's where it leads us to, I think, probably the best area. If you had to put your money on anything, I would probably choose the behavioral variables. Put simply, the best prediction of whether or not someone will come to your hotel is whether or not they came there before. The best predictor of somebody's future behavior in coming to your restaurant is if they came there before. All right, and basically, behavior is the good connection, is the optimal connection to future behavior. So here's where it gets interesting. Here's where we start talking about, in terms of actual consumer behavior and connection to a brand, how do we identify those people who might be regular users or heavy users of a product? Okay, and if we do, once we identify who those people are, then we have an opportunity to reach out to them. All right. Just as a very simple example, if you run a hotel, okay, you may have a certain regular set of clientele who come in. They come in on a semi-regular basis, and you can in the best of all worlds, you can optimally encourage them to come in more times throughout the year. But here's the interesting thing: if your customers, you have a group of customers who come to your hotel, but only do so when you're offering discounts, you might want to rethink whether or not that group is necessary to the ongoing success of your firm. All right? We will often find people who ultimately become kind of couponers or price-sensitive consumers. And again, they're kind of nice to fill in the blanks, but over the long term, you really want to have your more loyal, your more reliable customers who you can count on for continued revenue. Now, if we also look at that, as I mentioned earlier, I do some stuff with loyalty. When we look at behavior, we typically see 3 loyalty programs, and without getting too much into that, you have the optimal platinum standard, you have the silver standard, and then you have bronze or something. But the idea is, and this is what's really interesting, is that those higher end users, those people who spend lots of money at your firm, are going to expect certain kinds of perks and variables, and you need to pay attention to who they are. The airlines do it when they try to look at their frequent flyer people. All right, they provide them with certain perks or opportunities, say the chairman's lounge or upgrades to first class, that the other customers don't necessarily seek out. So if we look at an airline in terms of behavior, you have one group of customers who are very price conscious and are willing to fly almost at any time of the day or night, and then you have, say, your business, more reliable travelers, who in their case, they're looking for comfort. They're looking for, make my life a little easier, make this a good experience for me. So taken together, the recommendation, and I think what's coming out of the literature more and more now, is that if you only can pick one, take behavior, and if you're going to add others, certainly add them in conjunction. So if we go back to that very first slide, or the second slide, when we're talking about a market profile, this is really the combination of the choices that we make for grouping our customers. And again, I think that's really kind of one of the interesting things. So where do we go from this? What are some of the take-home messages? Some final thoughts, if you will. The first, firms need to be engaged and be very heavily involved with technology. Things are changing, and they're changing at a relatively rapid rate. Handheld devices have now, like cell phones and things like that, have now become one of the main sources of technology for bookings, for evaluations, for writing reviews. Your firm needs to have a presence in that airspace in order to be successful. As technology moves forward, the need to be in front of it will become even more critical. Those firms that can get out in front are likely to be those that are going to be more successful. And again, it's kind of one of those things that even in the educational market, we're no longer teaching courses in e-marketing, because by the time you put the course together, the technology has already gone beyond what the course was able to do. So firms need to be highly involved with technology and certainly be aware of those new trends. Certainly that information needs to be out there. Market scanning, market analysis are all parts of staying ahead of the changes in technology. Data collection and evaluation. There are rich sources of information out there so that you can gather information on your customers. What is it that they like? What is it that they might not have liked? And sometimes that's even more valuable to you than getting liking data. Find out what they don't like and basically begin to understand, are there new markets out there? Are there opportunities that we somehow may be missing? And again, this leads to the kind of next step in data-driven decision making. That we have this information, and if we can put it together reliably, we can identify new markets, new opportunities, new ways of reaching out to our customers. And that, I think, the reach out part is really where this whole kind of Wi-Fi world comes in. The idea is really that you have to be able to understand how people are using technology to make decisions. And if you can reach out to them in that way, thinking about it yourselves. I found an archaic book in my house the other day. It was called a telephone book where people were advertising. I haven't seen one in years. It's one of those examples of how technology has kind of usurped traditional information gathering. Where is it? Where do our customers get information? If they're going online, my website has to be there. If they're going on Facebook, my Facebook page has to be the one that grabs them. So those are the kinds of things that I think are going to be directing the future. And finally, this is again something that you will hear, if you've not already, to continue coming back to, is the idea of customer lifetime value. All right, our customers, it's usually easier to keep an existing customer than it is to go out and get a new one. And we need to come up with ways of understanding the lifetime value of that customer, even if it goes, and it must go beyond simply the revenue that they generate. It's the kind of word of mouth that they're going to share. It's the evaluations they're going to give of your firm. It's whether or not they're going to go on a site and rate your firm. It's the kind of connection that they're looking for that makes them feel special. So again, I think going forward, I think these are the kinds of things that we need to be focusing on, and those firms that are successful are the ones who are kind of out in front of this.
Hey y'all, here's 3 steps to help build a huge Vima business.
So here's the game plan.
Step 1, get a builder pack.
Help 3 friends in 1 week also get on a builder pack.
When that happens in your first week, you make $700.
And for those who aren't ready, get them on the customer program.
If you get 3 consumers in 1 month,
your product is free.
All right, so step 2.
If you help 1 friend on each side of your business get to the goal level,
you get a BMW or Mercedes of your choice paid for by Vima.
Step 3.
Help 5 people get into a BMW.
When that happens,
you're going to be making a residual income
about $50,000 a year.
The Vima opportunity is the real deal.
This is an opportunity of a lifetime.
It's completely changed my life.
We're breaking away from the employee mindset.
Keep your dreams and your goals in front of you.
There's no reason that you won't be successful with this.
Now you got a story and you're on your way.
Yeah.